Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday morning. How's it going, Astro? First day of meteorological spring and first day of Lent. What is Lent? No idea what that is. Is that like a religious thing? I have no idea. I have no time for anyone who apologizes for the horrible destruction of Ukraine. Going on now, the war megalomaniac who's making it happen. Please, yeah, I don't think anybody is in favor of what's happening. Oh, it's Catholic. Oh, it's Catholic. Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, I think for the most part, the overwhelming majority of people are against war, especially. Yeah, I think most people are against war. I haven't seen overwhelming support for what's happening. Okay. Not sure why that, Alright, folks, we do have quite the amount of things to go through. But first, we will give a quick update. For the people that do support, what is their argument? I mean, they have an argument, but first of all, how's it going? I like pie. But it's not very good. It's weird. Very weird. It just depends on who you ask. What is the difficult truth? The difficult truth is, seems like you get banned a lot. All right, let me pull up some of this that we have to do here. You do really know that I'm not the. You do know I'm really not for the capable of 1492, of 1493. I have no idea what that even is. Where's the same energy for Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya, Syria, and Yemen? Are you okay? How long have you been in this channel? You okay, buddy? Just because I am indigenous does not mean I understand. I have like complete knowledge. All right, I'm trying to learn. Maybe you could teach me. All right, before we get really derailed. The papal bull issued by the Pope played a central role in the Spanish conquest of the New World. What? Is this like some manifest destiny? Is this some manifest destiny garbage? All the lands to the west. Yeah, this is some manifest destiny garbage. This is what it looks like. I mean, I think from what I'm reading. Well, it is that. It's Catholicism. What? It's Catholic manifest destiny. Jesus. Yikes. Hey, Lease Manor, how's it going? How's it going? Yeah, it's like a Pope edict. I am being shadow trolled. No, I just know how to deal with trolls. Trolls have no power here. NATO and the United Nations can help other countries. Yeah, but I'm not interested in NATO trying to overstep its line. Other than humanitarian aid. I bet you'll celebrate Easter with a holiday. No, I don't think so. I don't celebrate like a lot of religious holidays because, first of all, the majority of times I don't even realize they're happening. The majority of times I don't even realize it's happening. Easter is a pagan holiday, yes. Yeah. That's right. Okay. So, just to get us all caught up, um, first of all, let me just pull up some of these articles and we will talk about what's going on. All right. Progressive Ammo, how's it going? Howdy. All right. Really quickly. New updates. Reports of Russian bomber aircraft shot and crashed. Ukrainian helicopters have struck and destroyed troops in the Mykolaiv Oblast. There have been several explosions in Kharkiv. Several Ukrainian casualties. I think in one missile blast there was about 70. 70 Ukrainian casualties. Several bombardments have hit civilian apartment buildings. Lots of Russian equipment being abandoned. President Zelensky is trying to speedrun his way into getting Ukraine into the European Union, which I think, in my opinion, is not... in my opinion, I don't think that's a good idea yet. Do you know much about indigenous hip-hop? No, actually, Lost Sue sometimes comes in here and drops some good music. Where does Moldova stand in this? I have no idea. I have no idea. Wait, who's the troll? What? Gary Lightfoot Davis? He seems to be like some type of... Oh, I see. Gotta check it out on my own time. I think I heard the EU will provide Moldova assistance, but I don't know if I heard that right. Like, what do they need? I don't know. I didn't even know Moldova was even involved in this. I heard rumors, but I have no idea, actually. Appreciate that. According to the Russian... Yeah, Moldova's over here, but I don't know if they, like, attacked Moldova. That's a separate country, is it not? Russian defense minister has said that they're not stopping. They're not stopping at all until their objective is complete. So it sounds like to me that they're willing to throw as many bodies as necessary until something cracks, and not good. Not good at all. There is still a massive Russian military convoy still making its way, I believe, to Kiev. Belarus is deploying more troops on its border. Over 660,000 people have fled Ukraine. Significant damage after the Kharkiv government building has been hit. They have said they were on their way to Kiev for days. Yeah, true. If Russia stopped, the war would stop. If Ukraine stopped, it would be dead. Well, Ukraine is not trying to invade Russia. Russia's invasion of Ukraine will continue until its goals are reached, says the defense minister. Says the Russian defense minister. Yeah, this is telling me that they have no intent of stopping. They have been on their way to Kiev for days. Yeah, but it looks like this one is a huge convoy. Originally, it started off as a few miles long, but it is now over, I believe, it's about a 40-mile long convoy. So that's what we've been looking at so far. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's stopping. It doesn't seem like there's no real incentive for him to stop. So it's taking long because of distances, not because of fighting. It's a combination of a whole bunch of things. Distance is but a small factor. I believe they're having supply line issues, fuel issues, and some of it is also because of the fighting. Yes, logistics. Exactly. The issue is, that convoy, should it reach Kiev... Is it Kiev? I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest. Should it reach the capital, that's pretty much GG. That's pretty much GG. Russia has stepped up its demands this morning. Their foreign ministers demanding Europe send all their nuke backs to America. What? What makes them think that they were American nukes anyways? What? This doesn't make sense. That's a non-starter. That's a non-starter. It is awful. This whole thing is awful. Anyways, that's what we have as far as we know right now. The Russian foreign minister said that on TV news this morning. Ha! Yeah, that's not gonna happen. That's literally a non-starter. It's just not gonna happen. No one's going to give up their nukes because Russia said so. That's not gonna happen. That is why Ukraine is being hit now, because they gave up the nukes. Wrong. No way. No. That is not the sole reason why they're being attacked right now. 100% not true. The reasons why they're being attacked is for multitude of reasons. Alright, everybody chill. Everybody chill. Everybody chill. Yeah, the reason why Ukraine is being attacked right now is for a multitude of reasons, and it's not because just simply they gave up their nukes. No, they might have hit Ukraine earlier before they got nuclear weapons online. The whole point is to not escalate the idea. The whole point is to not escalate the situation. Certainly, it was a de-escalatory. This is why like war is so bad. Jesus Christ. This is a de-escalatory move to make sure that, you know, Ukraine was Russia. They already had nukes. Yes. Okay. So the nukes that Ukraine decommissioned or gave back or gave up, I believe was old Soviet nukes, right? That's what the story is. I may be wrong, but I believe I don't know if they belong to Russia. That's no. I don't believe they belong to Russia if they don't want to. It's that simple. I don't think they belong to Russia. Nobody belongs. Yeah, they didn't have the codes for them either. Yeah, I thought they were like old Soviet nukes that they decommissioned. That they gave back or decommissioned or gave away. I'm not sure what the entirety of the story is, but either way, it was a intent of de-escalatory. If they were there, they were Soviet nukes. Yeah, the Soviet nukes belong to Russia, yes. And in an effort to be de-escalatory, they said, we're not going to have these, but you need to keep your end of the deal, which is to maintain peace in the region, which they did not. Which Russia did not. They signed a treaty We said we would protect them if they gave up theirs. I don't know if we would protect them. Certainly, at this point in time, it is a very thin line because I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in kicking off the nuclear holocaust. Has America ever held up to a treaty ever? Once upon a time, maybe, kind of, sort of, not really. Meh. It's probably easier to count the number of times that we had kept our word. It's probably easier counting the times that we had kept our word. Even Russia signed a treaty? Yes, and they violated it. Yes, I completely agree with you. Yes, and they violated it. Seeing as what we're initiating today. I mean, what we're witnessing today. The point is, I'm trying to avoid anything that would kick off a nuclear holocaust. So I'm good. I want as much as much de-escalatory diplomacy as possible. The American government should keep their hands off. At this point in time, I think we've done pretty much all we can. And even then, like, none of it's working the way they thought it would. The American government hasn't done really much. Other than sanctions and being very critical of them, that's it. But, like, at the same time, it's, like, very hard. It's very hard to say much from our side of things because, like, glass houses and all. I can't wrap my brain around the fact that they're setting things up to prosecute Russia for war crimes. We never did that to America because all our war crimes and some that are going on as we speak. Yeah, I know. That's right. That's absolutely correct. Now we must move on because you're not across the history and have a view without the proper study. I have no idea what that means. Like, yes, there are significant reports of, war crimes that are being committed as we speak. But unfortunately, like I said, glass houses and all, we literally saw a video yesterday of, oh my god, of Condoleezza Rice saying that the invasion of a sovereign nation in and of itself is a war crime. I'm like, how could you say that with a bold face, straight bold face to the camera, unironically attempting to say that invading a sovereign country is a war crime? I lived through the Cold War and the fall of Berlin, so I have a lot of history. Cool. The realities of the ground, some are rooted to history. Well, when it comes to what's happening in Russia, Ukraine, some of it is tied to history. Some of it is modern. Some of it is abysmal foreign policy. Sprinkle an autocrat who has currently nothing to lose, and we've got the situation we're watching. He is much worse than an autocrat. I mean, autocrats are dictators or authoritarians. I don't know what else you want to add to that. I hate the internet. True. Same. I hate the internet. The internet was a mistake, folks. We get to literally witness a full-scale conventional war through our Doom device. Live. It's access to information. It's also access to some good memes. That's for sure. It's also access to some good memes. Oh, man. We were able to watch a lot of things happening in Gaza, too. Yes. And, Syria. And a lot of places, actually. Before, we just had to rely on reports that we saw after the fact. Or the internet, there was a lot of information that would cost a lot of money to obtain. Yeah. The internet may be the only thing that's stopped Ukraine from being totally flattened. No, I think the the resistance is what's being totally... the resolve of the Ukrainian forces is what's actually preventing... Well, there's several things at play here. Not only are they resisting much harder than originally thought, there isn't a lot of fight in the Russian side. It is it is overwhelmingly unpopular across the board, and furthermore, Putin has really not decided to actually begin to flatten cities. We are literally starving and killing families in Afghanistan and Yemen. Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that one's on us. And that one is on us. The internet's both the best and the worst thing at the same time. Howdy from Australia. That one is 100% on us then, Dara. As humans, we actually are actually a hive mind. We just need a better way of communicating. If you mean that we are better together, then yeah, I agree. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Anyways, TLDR, war is still garbage. War is still hell. And it needs to stop before it escalates any further. I think one of the most vile things happening on the internet right now is the media taking videos from Syria, Gaza Strip, and saying it's in Ukraine. Yeah, okay, that's kind of weird champing. Like, objectifying the leader of Ukraine is kind of weird champ, okay? That's kind of weird. All right. That's a bit weird. Yeah, are people cheering on war because no one wins? Yep. In war, no one wins. Okay? It's never good. It's never good. Nobody wins. When you're watching videos of like the stuff that's been happening, no, who wins there, right? Nobody wins. It's not good. Sometimes it does, yes. Sometimes it is just simply uneducated idiots, yes. Yeah, there's been a lot of misinformation, whether it's because people are trying to desperately get the story first or just falling for misinformation. But yeah, it's very hard to get a complete, accurate view unless you're on the ground yourself. That's funny. All right, we're getting a bit off the tangent. TLDR, still horrible, and I want this to end. Senate Republicans blocked bill that would preserve the right to abortion. Senate Republicans on Monday blocked a House bill aimed at preserving access to abortion nationwide. The Senate blocked the measure on a nearly party-line vote, with Democratic Senator President Joe Manchin of West Virginia voting along with Republicans in opposition. Good memes. The bill, dubbed the Women's Health Protection Act, aimed to protect a person's ability to determine whether to continue or end pregnancy and to protect healthcare providers' ability to provide abortion services. That's a good meme. Even though the bill is not expected to have the necessary vote to pass the 50-50 Senate, as legislation in the chamber requires Republicans to join Democrats to at least get the 60 votes to break a filibuster. The bill's failure to advance in the Senate comes as Republican-led states have introduced advanced bills across the nation that make it harder for women to access abortions and threaten healthcare providers who perform the procedure. The Texas law that took effect in September that bans abortions about 6 weeks of pregnancy and allows private citizens to bring lawsuits against anyone who assists a pregnant person seeking an abortion in violation of the ban. And the Supreme Court justices are expected to decide later this year a separate Mississippi case that presents a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade, the landmark case decision legalizing abortion nationwide. Following that controversial Texas law, Speaker Nancy Pelosi has announced that the House would take up the Women's Health Protection Act. Pelosi argued that the time has come to pass legislation, considering Democrats' control of the House, where the majority of members support abortion rights, and the Democrat serving as president. The problem being, you don't have the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, speaking at a news conference ahead of the vote, said abortion restrictions passed at the state level largely fly in the face of public opinion, common sense, and quite frankly, common decency. We must stop these insidious efforts to curtail women's right to access to safe and legal abortions. True. I missed all these votes happening, and I'm just finding out some foul votes went down. Yeah, trust me. Just because we have an international crisis does not mean we're going to miss out on some of these. The Republicans voted against an anti-lynching bill? Jesus Christ. Yikes. Republican Lisa Murkowski said in a statement that she supports a women's right to choose, but that, it goes too far. Yeah, okay. Would broadly supersede state laws and infringe on Americans' religious freedoms. What? Okay. just casually Republicans torpedoing bodily autonomy. That's basically what it is. They don't believe in bodily autonomy. They're the ones that are in control. They tell you what to do. Remember, folks, they tell you what to do. That's the point of the Republican Party. They get to decide what you do. I've been banned from 2 communist channels so far today. Nice. I wonder why. I wonder why. I called out their hypocrisy on China and their genocide. Okay. Can y'all talk about the topics, please? True. Speaking of another disturbing Supreme Court case that's coming up, just kind of piggybacking off that, Supreme Court to hear a case that would limit EPA's power to fight climate change. This one is another important one. They use the same image, really? Lazy NPR. Come on. The U.S. Supreme Court hears arguments on yesterday, in a major environmental case that could hobble the ability of federal agencies to regulate air pollution and potentially much more. We've been talking about this case for quite a while. This one is another case to be paying attention, or this is another case to pay attention to, I should say. The case has been years in the making. It began in 2009 when the Obama administration faced an unpleasant reality. Climate change is a problem too big to address without an international agreement, but the other nations would not do anything unless the U.S. went first and showed it was serious. I mean, yeah, because we also have a good chunk of responsibility, too. As the environmental law professor Richard Lazarus, so the Obama administration set about doing just that, which, no. I categorically disagree. Listen, that is what kicked off my interest into politics, okay? Obama was sold to us as some type of progressive hope change. He was going to make a difference when it came to the environment. And when I realized the realities of what was going on, that pretty much changed my mind. Obama got you into politics? No. How should I say? The disheartening management, especially with the Dakota Access Pipeline, kind of set the wheels in motion for me to get involved in politics. I saw that. I saw the way he treated the protesters when it came to the Dakota Access Pipeline. I saw that he was going to be a much more environmentally friendly person, environmentally friendly president, but actually did the opposite. he made us believe that something was going to happen finally, and I believe that what his demeanor or like front face was good, but his actual policies put us in the complete wrong direction and basically put us to sleep for a bit, you know? Put us to sleep for a bit, and I think that that was disappointing. Alright, listen, buddy. I'm not going to be tone policed in my own stream. How is it racist? What? That's kind of weird. How is it racist? I'm not going against his race. I'm going against his terrible policies. Yeah, Trump said it. It comes from a meme. I loved Obama as a little kid, but I didn't know anything about anything. Yeah, I mean, like, he had good ideas. And then went the complete opposite, or completely was unable to make any of it, to any good extent, come to fruition. And it was a massive disappointment. And folks who really needed fundamental problems to be fixed, it just didn't happen. That's my problem. It ended up setting us back in hindsight. So the Obama administration set about doing that, first getting the auto industry to reduce carbon emissions, and then addressing the country's single largest carbon emission problem, the coal-fired plants. Instead of regulating the plants themselves, the EPA set out strict carbon limits for each state and encouraged the states to meet those limits by transitioning to alternative sources of energy: wind, solar, hydroelectric, and natural gas, which is a meme. The goal of the plan was to produce enough electricity to satisfy U.S. demand in a way that lowered greenhouse gas emissions. Okay. The concept worked. It worked so well that even after Obama's Clean Power Plant was temporarily blocked by the Supreme Court and repealed by the Trump administration, market forces continued that trajectory. Ah yes, the good old market. Most utilities continued to abandon coal because it was just too expensive. As a Sierra Club Andres Restrepo observes, the EPA initially projected that it would reach the target emission goals under the plan by 2030, but even without the regulation in place, the industry achieved that level of reductions in 2019, 11 years earlier. I just have a hard time. Thinking that the private industry would be moving us in the right direction. Because as we've been reporting on, a lot of these companies throw their emissions off, or don't report the ones that are a bit too inconvenient. So I'm not sure if I trust this. This is under the presumption that the private sector would have been easier, but the realities are it's not. Nobody's talking about Obama in comparison to Trump. I was criticizing Obama, not making a comparison. However, that didn't stop the coal industry. West Virginia and 16 other states continued their fight against the now-defunct Obama plan. Presumably, they did that to prevent the plan from being resurrected. The states and the coal industry appealed to the Supreme Court last year. The Biden administration, fearing a disastrous ruling, unilaterally surrendered the Clean Power Plan and pledged to write a new rule that would regulate only the coal-fired plants themselves. They buried it and told the court it's gone. There's no more case. But the court, is an unusually muscular assertion of power, agreed to review the now revoked plan. It's no secret why. To one degree or another, the court's 6-justice conservative supermajority have been itching to limit the power of regulatory agencies, potentially even the power of Congress. Yeah, if that happens, it's all downhill, folks. In recent cases, a conservative court majority has begun to outline something it calls major questions doctrine, which could hamstring the authority of all agencies, from the EPA to the Security and Exchange Commission to the Federal Reserve Board. In general, it's far less differential to agencies than the court's previous case law suggested. Specifically, the major questions doctrine requires Congress to specifically authorize new policies or directions even when the language of a statute gives an agency broad power. The question is, has Congress spoken clearly enough to tell a federal agency you can create a program that has substantial effects on the American economy? Yikes. Because if this goes, if this ruling is against the EPA, basically what's going to end up happening is it's going to call into question just how much regulatory oversight other agencies have, and that could cause a lot of domino effects. Like, for example, maybe the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, maybe doesn't have any regulatory power to enforce labor protections. What about the SEC? Maybe they shouldn't have regulatory powers. Basically making the argument at that point, there shouldn't be any regulations. Unless Congress is explicit. And then, if that's the case, you've got to fight through Congress and the Senate. Jesus Christ. Here, Johnson argues the EPA went too far reshaping the energy economy by determining what mix of clean power and coal-operated power we should have. It did so with a powerful stick. The clean power plant set emissions caps below what was economically feasible, essentially coercing coal-fired plants to invest in alternative energy. Yeah, again, if your company is incapable of moving forward, progressing, and your company is responsible for the destruction of the environment, for the destruction of human health, ecological health, and you have no palpable plan of turning it around, you should not be in business. But the major questions doctrine is not the only new twist that some of the court's conservatives have advocated, and others is something called the non-delegation doctrine. As some conservatives see things, Congress is quite limited in how much regulatory power it can give to agencies. Jonathan Brightbill, an environmental lawyer who previously represented the Trump administration in the case, summarizes the outer edges of the non-delegation argument, namely that Congress cannot delegate unlimited power to executive agencies no matter what the circumstances are. After all, he points out, ours is a constitutional system, and the Constitution places legislative powers in the hands of representatives in Congress, not unelected executive agencies. That point was initially made by Justice Clarence Thomas in a 2001 case, an APA case no less, but no other justice joined his opinion. Even Justice Antonin Scalia, conservative icon, rejected the non-delegation argument. Scalia's majority opinion greenlit the delegation of broad regulatory authority as long as Congress guides the agency with intelligible principle. But in 2019, Trump appointee Neil Gorsuch sought to resuscitate Thomas's non-delegation argument in an opinion joined by Chief Justice John Roberts. They argued that the founders rejected the idea that Congress could delegate its powers. Law professors Nicholas Bagley and Julian Davis Mortensen have disputed this reading of history as an exhaustive examination of the debates at the founding. To the extent that we have evidence about what the founders thought about the non-delegation doctrine, the evidence cuts pretty hard in the direction that they thought there wasn't any such thing. Alright, I'm gonna stop this right now. Oi. Chat. Chill. Final warning. Taken to the extreme, the major questions and non-delegation doctrines could debilitate... basically this is a TLDR. Taken to the extremes, the major questions and non-delegation doctrines could debilitate federal agencies. For example, the Federal Reserve's power to set interest rates is certainly a power of vast political and economic significance. Must Congress act every 3 months to review the interest rates? And I don't think they even know. What? How would they know this? How would they know this? Lazarus doesn't think the court will go this far. At some point, the court will find equilibrium, but that's going to be a time from now. And when it comes to climate change, we're running out of time. Yeah, that's the real problem here, right? I mean, like, and also imagine if all of these these regulatory powers are gone or restricted. I mean, this would be a mess. This would be a mess. How would the SEC be able to enforce regulations? The NLRB, how would they be able to enforce the regulations? How would the EPA be able to enforce something so basic as clean water or clean air? Unbelievable.
I do think he has been motivated strongly by the Holy Spirit and the assignment on his life. He's a key chess player of God. If I had to choose,
I think you can say, well, Putin's out of his mind. Yes, maybe so. But at the same time, he's being compelled by God. He went into the Ukraine, but that wasn't his goal. His goal was to move against Israel ultimately. And God is getting ready to do something amazing, and that will be fulfilled. And what Putin is doing by moving as he is to set up Ukraine as a staging ground for one of the armies, and then across is Erdogan at Turkey, and you've got between them that little Dardanelles area, and it's going to happen. So I just say that is what's coming up. Is Putin crazy? Is he mad? Well, perhaps. But God says, I'm going to put hooks in your jaws, and I'm going to draw you into this battle, whether you like it or not. And he's being compelled, after the move into the Ukraine, he's being compelled to move again to get a land bridge and then across the Dardanelles with Turkey and watch what's going to happen next. You read your Bible because it's coming to pass.
This is why extremist evangelicals are absolutely bananas.
He has been motivated strongly by the Holy Spirit and the assignment on his life. He's a key chess player of God. If I had to choose Russia, well, I shouldn't say that because that'll get me in a lot of trouble.
Be careful now.
What's called our government now is Russia's government. I would take that, because if you actually go what they're saying and what they're for, and for the freedom of their people and proper patriotism and family and serving God, those are things coming out. People don't know that you have to be able to get a hold of the messaging that's coming from Putin and the government there. That's what they want. They're not trying to bring their people into bondage. They're trying to bring them into freedom. They're trying to
yeah.
They want to...
When these crazy like far right wing people tell you that, oh well, you know, I mean, I kind of like Putin because he has certain values that I agree with. This is what they mean.
See families established. They want people to serve and worship God. Are they doing it all right and how they go about it? No. But as opposed to our, in quote, present government leadership who's trying to enslave us.
And that's the real freedom. When they talk about freedom, that's what they're talking about.
Put us in bondage. No telling what they would do if there was not the voice of Trump on the side saying what he's saying and everything else. But if you consider the fact that they have totally bought into the New World Order and the agenda to depopulate and allowing Fauci to have this key place. If you go, where is it more dangerous to be a citizen of?
It's all Pepe Sylvia. This is all Pepe Sylvia posting.
It is. If you just looked at it face value, not know what God's doing behind the scene, it's much more dangerous to be a citizen in this country under who we have in our government, as opposed to Magog and Gog, what people are trying to say over there.
All right, I really can't have that because that's borderline. Just no. It means that they have completely lost it.
What we're seeing is 100% fabricated. Okay? Now, obviously, if Pelosi and all these people are for Ukraine, you go opposite.
You have to go opposite.
That's
Jesus Christ.
Common sense. Okay.
Yeah, common sense. Completely delusional. So that's what these right-wingers believe. The whole point of me bringing this up is this story over here.
Our country is forcibly vaccinating people with a bioweapon that gives people heart attacks, blood clots, and immune deficiency.
Not true.
It's criminal. At this historic point, it will take all of us to speak out and defend each other for standing up for what is right. When we do take back our God-given rights, we will bring these criminals to justice. I've said we need to build more gallows. If we try some of these high-level criminals, convict them, and use a newly built set of gallows.
Newly built. These people are just like salivating at the thought. These are people that are completely unhinged.
Ukraine. And honestly, I want China to take back Taiwan. I want Russia to take back Ukraine. If for no other reason, then it's time.
So just to be clear, in case we had any doubts that these right wingers are where these right wingers stand.
And honestly, I want China to take back Taiwan. I want Russia to take back Ukraine. If for no other reason, then it's time for America to be humiliated. It's time for America to be humbled. And I don't mean America, our nation. I mean this regime. This regime must be humbled. This regime must be humiliated. I want to see the State Department get humiliated.
I want like authoritarianism to win, because guess what? I actually am, at the very core, an authoritarian who wants to see a genocidal ideology come to fruition.
Like when Afghanistan was taken over by the Taliban, that was awesome.
That was awesome, because I love authoritarianism. That's really what it is.
You know, these State Department employees were tweeting about how they were crying, that everything they worked for was gone, and the Taliban was going to enslave women again, and they lost. That was awesome. They deserve that. Not the people in Afghanistan, the people in the State Department absolutely deserve to be humiliated. No, we can't control Afghanistan, and we can't control Taiwan, and we can't control Ukraine, and you deserve to be humbled. And
yeah, get fucked.
You know what based means?
Oh
you
my
know
God. Jesus Christ.
Based means Sorab Shawarma. You know what it means? It means racist, sexist, anti-Semite. That's what it means, for lack of a better word. Okay?
Yeah. In case we needed any other examples as to where this is going.
Our Father. My name is Marjorie Taylor Greene. I am the daughter of the King, the one true living God, the Alpha, the Omega, our Father in heaven, and I am a forgiven sinner.
This is an actual elected representative in Congress, a Republican, a right-winger, who was introduced by our friend Nick Fuentes earlier. Just in case that's why I was setting this whole thing up, by the way. Those clips of Nick Fuentes, and now that same Nick Fuentes is the same person who is advocating for this America First platform, and is partial host of the America First Political Action Conference, where a actual elected representative, Marjorie Taylor Greene, was present and spoke and was introduced by Nick Fuentes.
Washed in the blood of our Savior, Jesus Christ.
Remember, folks, they are completely against the indoctrination of your children.
Praise God. Amen. Christ is King. My name is Marjorie.
If your federal, state, and local representatives are not in favor of banning vaccine mandates, banning mask mandates, instituting an immigration moratorium, halting the resettling of refugees, criminalizing LGBT curriculum, and the forced celebration of homosexuality in public schools, ending all abortion, reversing Obergefell v. Hodges, rigorously limiting mail-in ballots and electronic voting, being tough on crime, relaxing gun laws, allowing the people to defend our families, our property, and our communities, and bringing an end to the anti-white indoctrination in public schools by completely dismantling.
Okie dokie. Isn't Fuentes like 20-something? Yeah, he's very young.
Fauci basically, no, not basically, literally unleashed a bioweapon on the entire world. Why is this man still running around free instead of hanging by the end of a noose somewhere?
Yeah. 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 You know, the most disturbing part about these videos isn't the people speaking. It's the massive amount of cheering that's going on. That's the scary part. Because it's different between like, oh, this guy is just like an unhinged person, you know, speaking and everyone's kind of looking at him like, Jesus, this guy's unhinged. That would be one thing. The disturbing part is the massive amount of crowd cheering that's going on. This is at the, again, America First Political Action Conference. So whenever you hear America First, this is it. This is what they mean. This is what they want. This is what they cheer for.
I'll tell you why. He's not dangling from the end of a noose somewhere because there is an utter and absolute vacuum of real leadership in America. And when people like me say things like that, the truth is deemed hate speech.
Yeah, yeah. I think that calling for the hanging of people, yeah. Yes. The fact that we had another speaker saying that we need to increase or bring back more gallows, yeah.
Peters is dangerous and hateful.
Yeah, you are dangerous and hateful.
Which is why the queer pack people don't want us over there.
Yeah, because clearly you've demonstrated proclivity for if you ever got within an inch of legitimate power, it seems to me you're quite comfortable with Robloxing. This is, again, the America First people. Whenever you hear America First, this is the shit that they want.
She is.
Remember, this is Nick Fuentes introducing Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican elected member of Congress. The same Nick Fuentes, who is a leader in the America First movement, who is a staunch Nazi, introducing a elected member of Congress.
Standard bearer of Trumpism in the U.S. Congress. She is pro-life. She is proudly America First. And I want to say a very special thank you to Milo Yiannopoulos for making this happen. He made this happen. He put it together. Whoops. That's Milo over there. He's throwing some stuff around. But thanks to him, we are honored, we are humbled and excited to welcome to the stage right now for our first speech, and we love to get to know her much better. I think this is going to be the beginning of something great. The representative from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And again, the dystopic part about listening to this is all the cheering. Is all the cheering. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah.
Off, I have got to get to the airport, but I'm glad. I have got to get to the airport, but I'm glad to talk to you about this. I do not know Nick Fuentes. I've never heard him speak. I've never seen a video. I don't know what his views are, so I'm not aligned with anything that may be controversial. What I can tell you is I went to his event last night.
Does it sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Who is that from? Who's that playbook from? Does it sound familiar? That's right. I don't know him. I've never heard of him. I just don't know. I went to his event. I've never seen him speak. But, you know, there are good people on both sides.
To address his very large following, because that is a very young following, and it's a generation I'm extremely concerned about.
It's a white nationalist group.
Excuse me a minute. I'll tell you exactly why I went. I went to talk to them about America First policies, and I talked to them about
Marjorie Taylor Greene. What did you think America First policies are? What did you think? What did you think that meant? And judging by your previous comments, seems like you would be very comfortable. So it's kind of weird that you say you don't know anything about this guy.
what's important for our country going forward. Now, in regards to Russia, Putin is a murderer and he should have never invaded Ukraine. What he is doing is completely wrong. I stand with our nation.
Damn. That's kind of weird. Because the guy that introduced you said that actually, Putin's pretty based. And we all know what that means. His words, not mine.
NATO member allies, and I'm completely against this war.
It's a white nationalist
Excuse
group.
me, I'm going to finish. Everything that he's doing is wrong. He's killing people over and over. So I'm staunchly against it, and I'm staunchly against Vladimir Putin and his invasion of Ukraine. Another thing that is extremely important for me to say is the whole reason this is happening is because Joe Biden is a weak president. Now
Joe
America
Biden.
is a weak country, and our entire world is
my
falling.
God. She can't answer the question. She can't acknowledge the fact that what she did was go to basically a white nationalist rally. She can't acknowledge it. She can't do it.
Part, and we're seeing war erupt, which did not happen under President Trump because we had peace through strength. So this is something that we've got to really focus on, and I'm appalled at our country.
So like, might makes right. Where have I seen that before? The only decent communism is indigenous type of communism. The indigenous are actually our founding fathers. The North American Indigenous Federation, like federalized system, broadly resembled, if not, maybe, was even the original anarcho syndicalist society. Which was actually very fascinating. Yeah, it just made it cool to come out of the woodwork, yeah. Yeah, the North American indigenous folks were basically for all intents and purposes, in a kind of like a sort of anarcho-syndicalist federation. And what's fascinating about that is that, you know what? They were probably one of the least that area, those areas, and the way those those different federations work together, made it so that the conflicts that happened were so minuscule. It was relatively peaceful. Like, war wasn't really much a thing. Besides, like, they would settle their scores with small skirmishes and did everything possible, from what I understand, to make it so that they were mostly peaceful. It wasn't an empire to be. It wasn't an empire, and you could see the difference between how the indigenous folks in, I want to say, South America versus the indigenous folks of North America, and how those two, I mean, of course, it wasn't called those ideologies back then, obviously, but you could see the difference between an imperialistic nature of, for example, the Inca, and the imperialistic nature of the Inca people, versus a more federalized kind of, almost, again, for all intents and purposes, almost a anarcho-syndicalist society. You could see the difference there. Oh, I agree. Like a republic. Yeah, okay, there you go. Hey, spread it forward. Yeah, so, in fact, the founding fathers admitted it, didn't they? I'm pretty sure that one of the founding fathers was very adamant about using concepts of the, specifically, Iroquois nation. I'm pretty sure one of the founding fathers, or maybe several, I'm not sure. Anyways, the people there, admitted, if not advocated for, borrowing, the Iroquois. In North America, that was incredibly rare. In North America, that was incredibly rare. That was very, very shunned upon. At least to my knowledge, from what I understand about the history of the North American indigenous people, that was very, very frowned upon. There were skirmishes between the federations, but there was never such a thing as like full scale like war breaking out between them. The more imperialistic nature of, for example, the Iroquois, there may be some truth to that. That's right. That's right. What? Who's talking about Ukraine? Wait, this is such a hard pivot. I have no idea what that has to do with what we just spoke about. What?
For putting America last this way, making us depend on China, Russia, and foreign countries for our critical supplies
Not just
and our
First Nations,
energy.
but Native American Indigenous? True.
Excuse me, I don't know what his views are. I've never...
He's a white nationalist.
I do not endorse those views. The
Really?
reason why I went was to talk to the audience, just like I've talked to many different audiences. I've talked to...
If you don't endorse those views, wouldn't it behoove you to maybe maybe do some research before you show up as a keynote speaker or a main event speaker at an event. You just called inter-tribe battles as skirmishes? Yes. That is completely different from what's happening in Ukraine and Russia? What? This has nothing to do with one another. This is historical things that happened. What? Have you read the book 1491? You might want to read that book to get a good grasp of what happened.
The Democrat union workers earlier this week. I've talked here at CPAC. I talked to his people who were there. It wasn't an alignment. It was to talk about getting everyone together to save our country. And I think that's what's
Could I ask, why did you take the stage, though?
An appearance is an endorsement.
Young white men with the secret sauce.
Yeah, like, are you this incapable of taking 5 seconds to research what you're going to speak at? You didn't take 5 seconds to research who would be introducing you, who's arranging these things.
Women like children are irrational. Women are irrational. Women like...
Oh yeah, here's more great, fantastic takes by neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes.
Women are irrational. Women, like children, are irrational. They're more rational than children, but they are not as rational as men. And irrationality does not listen to rationality. So, you know, when a bitch going crazy, sometimes you gotta grab her.
All right. That's enough. He calls for violence, like a split second after that. He literally calls for violence 5 seconds after that. Or the split second. Anyways, in case you were...
You know what based means?
Oh my god,
you know what
Jesus Christ. This guy's unbelievably unhinged. Anyways, just to be clear.
You know what based means? You know what based means? Sorab Shawarma. You know what it means? It means racist, sexist, anti-Semite. That's what it means, for lack of a better word. Okay?
Why? Is there a problem? Why not just be out with it? She knew what she was speaking. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And if she really didn't, then how could you be so grossly irresponsible to not even take 5 seconds? It's very hard to believe. She's just using the Trump excuse, like, I didn't know who he was. Never heard of him. Violence on who? He was about to say that it's okay to hit women. So, now that we've got that out of the way, Green and Ghost are increasingly isolated as a GOP after speaking at white nationalist event. Representatives Paul Gosar, who is another famous far-right person, also representative of the United States government, and Marjorie Taylor Greene are an island on their own. Their fellow GOP lawmakers are after appearing with a white nationalist group over the weekend. Yeah. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, and a host of other Republican leaders are condemning party members who engage with these white nationalist groups. Days after Gosar and Green spoke at extremist-backed America First Political Action Conference, it's the most signs of isolation yet for the two Trump-allied conservatives as party leaders criticize their actions and decline to defend them. Yeah, but here's the problem. You let this happen. It was all fun and games when they brought the crowds, when they brought the votes, because, let's be honest, it's who votes for them. The only reason why they are doing this is because, well, they said the quiet part out loud. They said the quiet part too out loud is what their issue is here. Let's be honest. When he asked if plans are to take action against Gosar and Green, McCarthy said on Monday that he would have a discussion with the duo. Oh, yes. I will have a stern talking to these folks. Describing neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, not far-right, not just far-right, neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes as language as appalling, and language that he uses about anti-Semitism, women, minorities, and chanting for Putin, because, you know, of course. McCarthy also told CNN that Greenwood should have left the stage after Fuentes introduced her over the weekend and urging the crowd to give a round of applause for Russia. Nice. Nice. And then you wonder why people say that some of the GOP are a little bit too inclined to support Putin. His condemnations came quickly on the heels of McConnell's disapproval. The Senate GOP leader said in a statement on Monday that there's no place for the Republican Party for white supremacists or anti-Semitism. Yeah, except you fermented this. You let it spread. During the weekend conference, Russian president's army, a chant of Putin was heard in the crowd after Fuentes made his request for support of Moscow. Cool. Gosar also spoke at the America First conference last year when Fuentes urged the protection of the white demographic core. I definitely want to disassociate myself, said Senator Minority Whip John Thune. It's unacceptable. Well, my friend, this has been fermenting for quite some time. This is on you. This is on you, buddy. This is on you. Green defended herself in a weekend statement after absorbing a deluge of criticism after her appearance at the America First event, criticizing the Pharisees and arguing that she won't abandon these young men and women. Of course not. They're her base. Who attended. Her move nonetheless drew fury from several prominent Republicans, including former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Liz Cheney. Other prominent House conservatives sought distance from Gosar and Green, although not all of them did so directly. Freshman Representative Byron Donalds, of course, Florida man, said Gosar and Green should have been there, but that's on them. They got to make those decisions for themselves. He did not support punishing his colleagues internally, saying that question falls onto the voters. Right, except that's on your party. Representative Lauren Boebert put it this way: I do not apologize for other members and what they say or what they do. I do not support white supremacists like Nick Fuentes. Chip Roy went more forcefully after Fuentes, saying Nick Fuentes is an asshole. I mean, he's not just an asshole. He is not just an asshole. You remember, do you think MTG will get reelected? I remember that she had no opponents when she ran in that small area in Georgia. I don't know. She won't abandon. Yeah, like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's basically saying, no, I do not endorse this. I'm not going to show up to your white supremacist circle jerk. I hope this causes him to lose seats. That's not I don't know about that. Jesus Christ, where are these clowns coming out of the woodwork? Nobody said any of that was okay. And furthermore, Russia isn't a communist country. What? Nobody here has ever said that bombing, that America's horrible actions are okay. No one has ever endorsed that in this channel. Like, I don't understand what this whataboutism is. Yeah, Israel bombing Palestine was a fucking problem. Yeah. Yeah. That last drone strike that killed a freaking humanitarian aid person was a problem in Afghanistan. I couldn't even go over that story. That was a tough one to swallow. Hey Dakapayan, how's it going? Yeah, I already brought it other. Yes, yeah. Like, I don't understand where these clowns are coming out of the woodwork saying, like, oh, well, what about. Yeah, it's bad, and we have already condemned it when it happens. What? There are still there's still airstrikes happening right now. In Yemen and Syria. How's it going, Dakapoyon? Yes, and Russia is not communist? Okay. It's good. It seems I came into a weird part of the discussion. Oh no, we're getting to the good parts. We're getting to the good parts. Nick Fuentes is an asshole, wrote that he's frustrated by his colleagues who have chosen to associate with this situation. That is very milquetoast. That is about as milquetoast as you can possibly be. Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, recently elected leader of the House Freedom Caucus, condemned racism when asked about Major Taylor Greene and Gosar. He declined to criticize either by name or criticize Fuentes. Why? Is that hard? Is that too hard to say? Representative, and this is true, Olympic levels of mental gymnastics, Jim Jordan, a co-founder of the Freedom Caucus, also took the same approach as Perry, incapable of just simply criticizing by name, incapable of simply just saying, Nazis are bad, yes, and they should be removed from the Republican Party. A memo for the record. On the 24th of February, an electoral autocratic state launched a war on a flawed democratic state. That's what happened. No communism, no conspiracy. It's just that. Yeah, I mean, like in its most basics, simple. I mean, I guess if you want to be as summarized as simple as possible, yes. I get possession of my new van today. Nice. Congratulations. The RNC recently censured Representative Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for their work on with the Democrats investigating the January 6th Capitol riot, which, again, it's just like massively telling. It is just so illuminating, and it should be illuminating for the folks watching, just how the difference of how a of how folks who agreed with the fact that they need to investigate the insurrection at January 6th, those are traitors to the party. Those need to be censured. Folks who hang out in a clearly white nationalist rally speaks volumes, my friends. Speaks volumes as to where the values are. Speaks volumes as to where the mentality is. Hey, Heat, how's it going? It speaks volumes, folks. Ronna McDaniel, the chair of the RNC, issued a statement in the immediate aftermath of the America First conference that slammed white supremacy, neo-Nazism, hate speech, and bigotry as disgusting, and vowed they would have no home in the Republican Party. Asked for comment during a Monday press call on Green and Gosar, whom she didn't name directly. Why not? Is that a problem? But you don't have a problem naming Liz Cheney, Kinzinger? McDaniel reiterated her previous statement, while one RNC member suggested on Twitter that he would prepare a resolution censuring Green and Gosar. McDaniel said that the next party meeting in August will be the forum for further debate on the topic. We'll see what they do. Retiring Kinzinger said in an interview on Monday that his party should be focused on Green and Gosar, not him, but have little confidence in that playing out. What I think we should kick them out of the party. What I do think is that we're going to do actually nothing. McCarthy needs to do a press conference today denouncing Green, Gosar, and Fuentes, announcing Green and Gosar out of the conference. There's no more room for this. I mean, ideally, it would be a very strong, and united denunciation of this. But, it just gives me the impression that if they don't actually end up doing anything, or they keep, shoving off any action against these folks, it just means that the only reason that it just feels like, unless they are way more aggressive in their denunciation or take any type of action, the only thing that this tells me is that the only mistake that these two did was to say the quiet parts a little too out loud. They can't have that. Who voted against the anti-lynching bill? Jesus Christ. Hoping the infighting destroys their party? I don't know. Can you send me the link to the Fuentes tweets? I want to share them. There's someone who's asking questions. Oh, you can find them all at Right Wing Watch. I'll give them to you. It's like you don't need to make some you don't need to spin some crazy story. You just need to show them their own words. My fears that would just mean why nationalist party is considered legit. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. The only mistake they did was be a little bit too upfront. Is it true that MTG is drowning in election contributions? I don't know, but she's definitely a power. She's definitely a power, like a star figure who gets the crowd going. She's definitely a figure who is capable of riling up a good crowd. Alright, there you go. Spread it forward. You don't need to make an elaborate case You don't need to make you don't need to make Pepe Sylvia. You don't need to Pepe Sylvia post. You just need to show them their own words. I think they speak for themselves. You don't remember reps, but you do remember acronyms. Please don't help people remember her. True. Yeah, Representative Green. You're right. I think Representative Green is angling to be president. I don't know. I think that, if Donny Boy doesn't run, it's certainly going to be, Ron DeSantis. Yes, DeSantis is actually vying for that potential spot, I think. Oh, you got questions, really? Fire 'em my way. Could we get some real good... I don't know if that exists, my friend. Yeah, he's like Trump, but smart. I don't know about smart, but he's a little bit more effective at getting what he wants. So I played you a ton of clips, right? Just to illustrate the point and hammer it to death in a video game. To illustrate the point of the coziness with elected members of Congress. The relationship between the elected members of Congress and neo-Nazis like Nick Fuentes and the America First movement and the response worst of all, the response or lack thereof from the party. What about good Democrats who really want a better world? Very little. Well, it depends on what you mean by good Democrat. DeSantis is at a 54% approval. Is that good or bad? That's good. That's actually very good. Within the Republican Party, I think Representative Green would beat DeSantis in a runoff. No, I think that he's got it hands down. He's got it hands down. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. No one comes even close to beating Trump. And even DeSantis is at a distant second. But he's got massive approval. He's got massive approval. So yeah, I think he would win against Representative Green, hands down. Hands down. No doubt about it based on the polling and whatnot and how the Republican Party feels about DeSantis. I believe that he will win in a runoff. In a runoff against, it should Representative Green run for president, and it's between Ron DeSantis and her. For sure, she would lose. I think the polling was out of all eligible voters in Florida. Or just like a national, like, theoretical hypothetical. I like that. Theoretical hypothetical. If it, in Florida, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. He has a good chunk of support here. Yeah. So I hope I made my case explicitly. And I hope I was very thorough in making my case as to the direction this is going. This is to piggyback off what I said yesterday. Germany aims to get 100% from renewables by 2035. Germany aims to fulfill its electricity needs with supplies from renewable sources by 2035 compared to its previous target by 2040. Europe's top economy has been under pressure from other Western nations to become less dependent on Russian gas. And its plan to phase out coal-fired plants by 2030 and shut its nuclear plants by 2022 have left it with few options. Yeah, this is exactly what I was saying. Yeah, this is exactly what I was saying. The best way to ensure that you have energy independence is to increase your capacity for renewable energy. Yes. Economy Minister Robert Habeck has described the accelerated expansion capacity for renewable energy as a key element in making the country less dependent on Russian fossil fuel supplies, or, as I would like to say, energy independent. Nice. That's what I was trying to piggyback off yesterday when I was saying that they're making, when they were making this move as a result of this international crisis, that they are making a definite push because they realize that maybe reliance on fossil fuels is not such a good idea after all. I don't know how much news you guys seem to be getting about this stuff in Europe, but there's quite a dramatic shift since last week on pretty much every front, including energy planning. Yeah, I bet. I bet. I bet. I bet. An extreme atmospheric river is hitting the Pacific Northwest, bringing threats of avalanches and flooding that will persist for days. A low pressure moving over the North Pacific will result in an atmospheric river, which is a narrow ribbon of enhanced moisture transport slowly shifting to the Pacific Northwest. The National Weather Service office importantly tweeted this will produce periods of heavy to moderate rains beginning the work week. Yeah. So be safe out there. This is supposed to be a not so frequent event, but here it is. This invasion has been great for the EU as a federal entity. Yeah. Yep. 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 All of this is true. Because at the end of the day, like this person said, we don't know how this war ends other than tragedy for all those caught in its grasp, but already some geopolitical outlines are coming into focus and there will be more to come. There's no other situation in which Ukraine is fast-tracked into the EU otherwise, and generally I bet the Ukrainians would have voted against it, but this is merely speculation. Maybe. But Finland, Sweden think it's wild. Finland, for the first time ever, pulled a positive response to joining NATO in its history. Wow. Yeah, I'm very timid about Ukraine being sped run into the EU, simply because this will be seen as an escalatory move. This would be seen as an escalatory move, furthering Putin's logic of they are just trying to expand. Maybe, Memo, maybe. Maybe. All right, folks, we're continuing our journey.
Next 20 minutes, we will explore these with you. But let's start with the impacts.
This is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, Working Group 2 press release or press conference, I guess you can call it. I think they're muted.
Sorry for this technical glitch. Let's start from the beginning. Global warming of 1.1 degrees Celsius has caused dangerous and widespread disruption in nature. The increased frequency, intensity, and duration of extreme events on land and in the ocean is driving mass mortalities, for example, in trees, as we show here in this drought-stressed forest in California, USA. And climate change is affecting the lives and livelihoods of billions of people. The impacts from human-induced intensification of tropical cyclones, sea level rise, and heavy rainfall have resulted in increased losses and damages. Impacts are magnified in cities, where more than half the world's population lives. Heat waves amplify urban heat islands and air pollution to affect people's health. Critical infrastructure, such as transport, water, sanitation, and energy systems, have been compromised by extreme events.
When multiple extreme events happen at the same time,
absolutely,
they compound the
see
overall
Texas,
risk and are more difficult to manage. What we see here is an example of how heat and drought combine to cause reduction in crop yields, made worse by reduced productivity because of heat stress amongst farm workers. Reduced yields lead to reductions in household incomes, increased food prices, locally and potentially globally. Climate risks do not respect national boundaries, and weather-related extremes are creating shocks to global trade.
Yeah.
In the previous slide, we illustrated the powerful impacts of climate change on nature and people's lives. In this assessment, it is based on a new understanding of these interconnections. We can no longer think in silos, but have to look across climate, biodiversity, and human society and well-being if we want to tackle the many global challenges we face today. And talking of other challenges, climate change combines with unsustainable use of natural resources, habitat destruction, deforestation, and growing urbanization, as well as inequity and marginalization. These trends not only present threats to ecosystems and the people who rely on them, but also reduce the capacities of nature, communities, and individuals to adapt to climate change. 3.3 to 3.6 billion people live in global hotspots of high vulnerability to climate change. These are across large parts of Africa, as well as South Asia, Central and South America, small islands, and the Arctic. In these global hotspots, overlapping challenges include limited access to water, sanitation, and health services.
Yep, those are going to be the ground zero.
Such as smallholder farmers and fishing communities all increase vulnerability. High levels of poverty, weak leadership, lack of funding, lack of accountability, and trust in government also play a part.
Looking to the future, every small increase in warming will result in increased risks to nature and to people in every region of the world. Here we see a bleached coral colony on a dying reef off Okinawa, Japan. Let's consider some of these projected impacts on nature. This map gives an overview of biodiversity loss at different
Jesus
warming
Christ.
levels. We would see species extinctions and losses of entire ecosystems, such as mountaintops, tropical coral reefs, and coastal wetlands, even if we temporarily exceed 1.5 degrees warming for several decades.
Yikes.
The risk of extinction in biodiversity.
Another thing you'll hear frustration about here in the UK, and particularly Scotland, is that it has enough renewable energy to power all of its homes, but because of the price of fossil fuel goes up, renewable becomes more in demand, and therefore the price of that goes up too. So basically, everyone in the country sees massive price hikes in energy because of fossil fuel dependence. A great example of why it's not enough for one nation to do it. It needs to be everyone. Yeah, for like a number of reasons. Yes, it does need to be everyone. I guess a positive thing, it'll be pushing off fossil fuels. Yeah, maybe.
Biodiversity hotspots increases by about tenfold as warming rises from 1.5 to 3 degrees Celsius. Nature services support all aspects of our lives, from pollination and tourism to health and climate regulation. Loss of ecosystems and their services has cascading and long-term impacts on people globally, especially for indigenous peoples and local communities who directly depend on them.
So you understand why it is so crucial, why that Supreme Court case is so crucial, right? To like have a regulatory body that can actually kind of, maybe, sometimes, sort of, perhaps do things. Yeah.
Globally, population exposure due to heat waves will continue to increase with additional warming. At approximately 2 degrees Celsius, regions that are highly dependent on snowmelt could experience a 20% decline in water availability for agriculture beyond 2050. And we know that climate change will undermine food security. At 2 degrees warming, by 2050, people in sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, Central and South America, and on small islands are likely to experience food shortages, leading to malnutrition. About 1 billion people living in low-lying cities and
Not only that, it will cause a lot of destabilization because, well, it turns out, and this is very true, might be shocking to people, but it turns out people need food and water. And when you don't have the capacity or capability, as you did before, because of climate change, you're unable to grow crops, you're unable to reach, you're unable to obtain, water. What do you think is going to happen? That's going to pave the way for even further suffering and conflict over survival. Yes, Seco Resto Dragon and the poor are going to be hit the hardest, of course, because the poor won't have the resources to even deal with it, unfortunately.
Settlements on the coast are projected to be at risk from sea level rise and other climate hazards by mid-century. We provide a global perspective here, but this report also has an extensive regional focus. We have outlined the challenges we face and how they will increase at higher warming levels. The key question now is, how well are we adapting to changing climate? What we show is that action has increased, but progress is uneven, and we are not adapting fast enough. Growing public and political awareness of climate impacts and risks has resulted in at least 170 countries and many cities, including adaptation in their climate policies and planning. However, there are increasing gaps between adaptation action taken and what's needed. These gaps are largest among lower income populations.
Because they don't have the resources
of planning and implementation, these adaptation gaps will continue to grow.
Let's now turn our attention to how we adapt. And in this report, we show that there are feasible, effective options we can take to reduce the risk to people and nature, but their effectiveness decreases with increasing warming. When we think of adaptation, our first thoughts must be around reducing flood risk or preventing water shortages. But what we show is that the strengthening of health systems can reduce the impacts of infectious diseases, heat stress, and other climate-related risks, as well as the trauma associated with extreme events. This is particularly effective if it's combined with other measures, such as disease surveillance, early warning systems, and improving access to potable water. Nature offers significant untapped potential, not only to reduce climate risks and deal with the causes of climate change, but also to improve people's lives and livelihoods. Agroforestry is a climate-resilient way of growing food and creating wildlife habitat. Here we see a Nigerian rubber farmer diversifying his business with food crops, fruit trees, and bees.
Nice.
Conservation, protection, and restoration can help natural forests to adapt. Planting a range of tree species, managing pests and diseases, and reducing wildfire risks can help build climate resilience in managed forests. In agriculture, irrigation can be effective, but it can also result in adverse outcomes, such as accelerated depletion of groundwater. This and other adaptation measures provide economic and ecological benefits, as well as reducing vulnerability. In urban areas and elsewhere, effective urban management can secure drinking water. Most action to date has occurred around water-related hazards, such as reducing the risk from floods and droughts. Letting nature take its course, such as restoring wetlands and rivers and creating no-build zones, can reduce flood risks. The effectiveness of most water-related adaptation declines with increasing warming.
Food security can be enhanced by making the food system more resilient. For example, through adopting stress-tolerant crops and livestock, agroforestry, and diversification on farms. Community-based adaptation that is locally driven, that respects local and indigenous knowledge systems, and is adequately resourced can also be effective. Strengthening biodiversity can improve pest control, pollination, carbon storage, and it can provide shade for temperature-sensitive crops such as coffee and cacao. This all brings a range of other benefits for nutrition, health and well-being, and livelihoods. By 2050, urban areas could be home to 2/3 of the world's population. Cities also offer opportunities to transform. Using nature and engineering approaches together is important. To manage flood risk, for example, it might be important to install floodproofing on buildings, improve drainage along roads, and create space for water within the city, at the same time as constructing flood defenses. Establishing or restoring green and blue spaces, parks, green corridors, ponds, and wetlands, as well as urban agriculture, can all be woven into the built environment. Social safety nets for disaster management can help people overcome the impacts of climate change and can provide financial security. Additional benefits include public health improvements, especially from reducing heat stress and ecosystem conservation. In informal settlements, we show how local knowledge, adequate funding, skills and tools, as well as policymakers and residents working together can deliver adaptation at a city scale. Accountability, transparency, and commitment from government is also most important. Here we see community sanitation facilities being built and water tanks being installed in informal settlements in India.
Damn. What was that about institutional?
And ecosystem conservation. In informal settlements, we show
institutional change like accountability, transparency. Damn. Almost like what I've been talking about. Makes sense. Maybe my ideas aren't so wily after all. About making sure that a healthy democracy does have strong institutions, transparency, and inclusivity. Damn.
How local knowledge, adequate funding, skills and tools, as well as policymakers and residents working together can deliver adaptation at a city scale. Accountability, transparency, and commitment from government is also most important. Here we see community sanitation facilities being built and water tanks being installed in informal settlements in India.
We have evidence of maladaptation, adaptation that results in unintended consequences. For example, increased climate-related risks or increased greenhouse gas emissions. In this photograph on the left are sea defenses that may not be strong enough to protect the people living behind them. People can be lulled into a false sense of security.
True.
Compare this to an example from Delaware in the USA of how it's possible to use nature to provide flood protection. Indigenous peoples, ethnic minorities, and disadvantaged groups, for example, low-income households and those living in informal settlements, are some of the most affected by maladaptation. This reinforces and entrenches existing inequalities. We know that there are adaptation limits. Adaptation cannot prevent all losses and damages. And even with effective adaptation, limits will be reached with higher levels of warming. Some natural solutions will no longer work above 1.5 degrees Celsius warming. Above 1.5 degrees Celsius, a lack of fresh water could mean that people living on small islands and those dependent on glaciers and snowmelt can no longer adapt. And by 2 degrees Celsius, it may be especially challenging to farm multiple staple crops in many current growing areas, particularly in tropical regions.
Yep, and if people can't grow
If we focus on
food,
financial constraints, we see that current global financial flows are insufficient, especially in developing countries. The overwhelming majority of global tracked climate finance was targeted at emission reductions, while a small portion went on adaptation. Climate impacts that result in higher levels of losses and damages also slow down economic growth and thus reduce the availability of financial resources.
To avoid mounting losses, urgent action is required to adapt to climate change. But that's not enough. At the same time, it is essential to make rapid, deep cuts in greenhouse gas emissions to keep the maximum number of adaptation options open. So how do we accelerate and sustain adaptation? Political commitment and follow-through across all levels of government is key.
well, that's where we're having problems, right? That's where the whole thing starts to fall apart, right?
Greater adaptation is present where national climate laws and policies require adaptation action from lower levels of government and include guidelines on how to do this. Another area worth focusing on is institutional frameworks with clear goals and priorities that define responsibilities. These frameworks can impose duties upon governments to implement adaptation actions, for example, around conservation, sustainable use of beaches, urban development, and targeting diseases exacerbated by climate change. Enhancing knowledge of impacts, risks, and available adaptation options encourages actions from society and policymakers. Educational and information programs and the arts can play a part. Monitoring and evaluation is important to track progress because in a warming world, measures that are effective now might not work in 20 years.
Yeah.
Adaptation strategies might have to be revised constantly. Revisions should be fact and data-driven. And finally, inclusive governance that prioritizes equity and justice is also important. Citizens, civil society organizations should participate directly in planning and decision-making.
What?
It's important to highlight that adaptation measures offer wider.
Damn. Strong institutions that do what they say or are capable of operating in the manner that they're supposed to be. Transparency, inclusive. Damn. How does he do it, chat?
Benefits. If we consider that 3.4 billion people living in rural areas, many of whom are highly vulnerable to climate change, resilience can be improved by providing social safety nets, improved roads, reliable energy, clean water, and improved food security. These measures not only build climate resilience, but they also go hand in hand with helping to lift people out of poverty and achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 1. These other simple examples demonstrate how different goals may be achieved in a variety of circumstances. In this report, we have looked at these synergies in some depth. And this is how we illustrate the multiple benefits of adaptation options. If you look at this figure,
look at number 16, Strong Institute. Damn, how does he do it, chat?
Adaptation option that will also help absorb and store carbon. So
zero hunger, food,
and it helps
quality
achieve
education,
multiple sustainable development goals marked here with a plus. Likewise, if we look at options in our cities, we see that green infrastructure, green roofs, parks, and street trees play a part in helping us adapt by providing shade and water management. They also absorb and store carbon.
The only thing that's missing here, explicitly, although, you know, you could say that it's implicit here, but food, housing, education, and healthcare. Damn. How does he do it, chat?
Again, they help with multiple UN goals. What we see here is the foundation for a solutions framework that is an important new concept in this report. Let's explore this now. If we look at this figure, we see a spectrum of futures, from a world with low resilience and high risk to one and store carbon. So it has mitigation potential, and it helps achieve multiple sustainable development goals marked here with a plus. Likewise, if we look at options in our cities, we see that green infrastructure, green roofs, parks, and street trees play a part in helping us adapt by providing shade and water management.
Yeah, I think they're
They
not.
also absorb and store carbon. Again, they help with multiple UN goals. What we see here is the foundation for a
Forest-based
solutions
adaptation
framework
high,
that is an
potential
important
feasibility
new
and synergies
concept
with
in
mitigation
this
high.
report.
This is what they're advocating for,
Let's
though.
explore this now. If we look at this figure, we see a spectrum of futures, from a world with low resilience and high risk to one with high resilience and low risk. This high resilience, low risk future and world has reduced climate risks through adaptation, reduced greenhouse gas emissions through mitigation, and enhanced biodiversity. These measures together support sustainable development, for example, no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, and access to clean water and sanitation. This concept is climate resilient development.
All right, chat. Unfortunately, it is about that time. I do need to get going. I want to thank you guys for hanging out here. Folks, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. And you get 5 free emotes. Don't forget to head on over to the YouTubes. Hit the subscribe button. It really does help us out. Join the Discord to keep up with the channel. Thank you so much. Spread it forward. Thank you, Heat. I appreciate that. As always, thank you for the new follows. Thank you for the support. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you so much. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. We love you all, and we hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. All right, chat. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.